on this edition of Cronkite Sports Report.
One young boxing prodigy is making his mark.
A prevalent raceway is speeding out of Phoenix.
These athletes are the masters of their sport.
And a traumatic injury forces a GCU soccer player to find a new path forward.
These stories coming your way now on the Cronkite Sports Report. Hello and welcome into the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Joseph Furtado.
And I'm Emily Bernstein. We appreciate you joining us. More than any other sport, boxing requires blood, sweat, and tears, literally, as boxers sacrifice their bodies in order to win.
For junior boxers, the risks are even greater. But for a 13-year-old Valley kid who's one of the best junior boxers in the country, the risks are well worth it. Cronkite Sports reporter Jacob Flores spent time with the boxing prodigy who's on a path to potential stardom.
To hit and not be hit. The sweet science of boxing seems so simple, yet it's one of the most difficult formulas to perfect. 13-year-old David King Garcia, or Little David as he's known, showed he could slip and rip at a young age.
I was 4 years old, not 3, and my tata brought this punching bag. My tata said, like, hey, like, he got some pretty good hands.
On his 3rd birthday, we bought him a little boxing dummy, and man, this guy would bang the heck out of it. And he had this, his hook, his left, and I would tell David, man, this guy, he's something else, he can hit.
Little David's natural talent was easy to see, and his father, David Garcia, decided to foster that talent, taking his son's career into his own hands. But finding the balance between father and coach was difficult at first.
It was hard, like, can't see my son get hit in the face, for a living. When he's in the fight, you can't look at him as your son. You have to look at him as your fighter, because any emotion gets involved. But we've been doing it so long, we don't think about that stuff no more.
David and his son have spent the last decade developing a plan that will one day take Little David to the top. And so far, success has come early and often. Garcia has won tournaments like the USA National Championships and the National Junior Olympics. Victories that have solidified King David's spot on the throne as one of the top young talents in the United States.
I've seen a lot of young athletes in my time, and there's a few special kids that come through that are not only athletically talented, but mentally blessed with the capacity to handle some of the type of success that he's going to see.
But things haven't always gone smoothly for David and his father. The elder Garcia made some life choices outside of the ring that could have completely derailed young David's boxing career.
My dad got caught up with jail time and all that, and my dad would always tell me, like, oh, nah, I'm just at work. And I'd be like, why is it taking so long? So I asked my mom, like, when is dad coming back home? And she'd be like, no, he's at work right now, because he had a big drinking problem. Like, it was bad. So he came back. I was like, yo, Dad, like, if you want me to box, you gotta stop drinking. And he stopped.
During that time, it wasn't like a long term, it was short term, and I knew that. It was hard for them because they didn't get to see their dad. But I would take them to visit whenever I get a chance.
And I know little David's been there through the rough, when we're going through a bad time. I know when we're going through a bad time, he saw a lot of stuff he wasn't supposed to. When I was living a crazy life, and so me and him will always have a very deep bond.
The Garcias made it through the rough times and recommitted to the plan they laid out years earlier, getting little David to reach his full boxing potential. The sacrifices at times can be overwhelming for both father and son.
I just want my dad to live a good life, I don't want him to work. I want this boxing stuff to work.
In order to obtain the life that little David wants for his family, he'll have to continue to put his health on the line. With about 80 amateur fights and countless sparring sessions logged in at the age of 13, long-term brain damage is a concern for the family.
Every day we have to think on that, Jake, because it's out there, it happens. Look at all the stories you hear about boxers and what happens. Look at the football players, you know, that constantly get hit in the head.
He does have a lot of wear and tear on his body. You figure he's been sparring since the age of 5. I do get worried, but his style his style keeps him away from all that stuff.
Good technique plus understanding the dangers helps David and his family look forward to the future instead of dwelling on the potential consequences. And there's one man with longevity in the sport that David and everyone around him believe his career will resemble.
Mayweather.
Floyd.
And Mayweather.
I'm gonna be a next Floyd Mayweather, but better.
And that's where the sweet science of knowing how to hit and not get hit will help King David reach the pinnacle of boxing royalty in a short amount of time. In Phoenix, Jacob Flores, Cronkite Sports Report.
And Jacob tells us King David has a mentor in professional boxer Danny Garcia. No relation.
Everyone in Little David's corner thinks he could be the youngest signed boxer in history. Coming up next on Cronkite Sports Report, cars are taking their last laps at Wild Horse Pass Motor Park.
Welcome back to the Cronkite Sports Report. Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park is a racing complex in Chandler that opened in 1983 and spans over 440 acres.
However, as Cronkite Sports reporter Michael Garaffa tells us, the legendary spot will be shutting down in 2023.
Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park has been hosting racing events since 1983. Spanning over 440 acres, the park houses a drag strip, a road course, and a 2.5-mile motorboat racing lake. It all started with a man named Charlie Allen.
Came over here, he built a drag strip, utilized the lake, put up a grandstand there, did boat drags, drag races.
While it has been the host of hundreds of motorsports events, that isn't all that Wild Horse Pass is good for.
There's been concerts here and everything from marathons to weddings to everything you can possibly think of that can be at an event venue.
For Chuck Sundstrom, Wild Horse Pass has been a centerpiece of his entire life.
I started out as a drag racer in the 80s and 90s and then started working here part-time. And then my kids raced juniors and my kids worked here when they were young. Now they've grown up and 2 of my sons are drifters. One's a drag racer, has 2 drag race cars.
Now, the iconic venue will be shutting down for good.
It's terrible. I really like this spot, especially they have the water, just all the views here and the spacing here. So it's a terrible thought that it's even shutting down.
For drivers and fans, Wild Horse Pass has been a meaningful part of their lives.
It's only you and that track out there, and you just get out there, you release that trans brake, and you're on it. So it's something that you can't explain, you just got to feel it.
For the community, this is a place for everybody to gather. I mean, right now there's tons and tons of people coming through the gates, the cars. It's going to really hurt the community, I believe.
Wild Horse Pass unveiled a master plan for a 3,300-acre commercial development in January of 2021. It initially seemed like the plan wouldn't impact the motorsports park for a few more years. However, in March of 2022, they unveiled a plan for a new highway extension that would use the space currently occupied by the track. Now, drivers will have to travel over 2 hours to get to the nearest track.
Most of the drifters need to have a car and trailer or a truck and trailer to go down there, because if you get in a wreck, it's going to be hard to drive your car back to Phoenix. As for the drivers who can't travel long distances to race, they may be left with no safe options.
What happens is you wind up pushing these people onto the streets to do drag racing, which is a dangerous situation.
Direct correlation to accidents and people drifting on the street and crashing, and a lot more danger to public safety and to drivers.
It's a lot better when it can happen in an event like this where the track's prepped there's safety crews, and there's rules that have to be followed, and you have to, actually your car has to pass the tech inspection, so it's better for drag racing.
Drift car driver Alex Anderson has a plea for those that are considering taking it to the streets.
I hope be respectful about it, go to abandoned areas late at night, that sort of stuff, not the like takeover style. You know, definitely don't want to see any of that.
The future for drag racing in Phoenix remains largely unknown at the moment.
Drag racing is going away, and I think drag racing is still a big part of, and motorsports in general is a big part of life for millions and millions of people across the world. So I just hope that it still continues as long as it can here and everywhere else.
Drivers and fans are going to make the most of the last few events at Wild Horse Pass before the park closes down for good in the coming year. In Phoenix, Michael Garaffa, Cronkite Sports Report.
Coming up next on the Cronkite Sports Report, two fifth-year seniors are the last of their class. See how they're leading the ASU lacrosse team.
Welcome back to the Cronkite Sports Report. Arizona State women's lacrosse will take the field this spring as they head into their 2023 season.
They've already started practicing, but there are two women that really stand out this year. Cronkite Sports reporter Michaela Nagel on how KB Squared, as they're known, will leave their mark on the ASU program.
This year, the Sun Devil lacrosse team consists of 40 women, but only 2 of those players are the last remaining in their class. Katie Brodsky and Kaylin Buckner are both ASU graduate students getting their masters as they head into their 5th year as Division I athletes and are still making their mark.
Their work ethic speaks for itself. They're personable. They want to be around us. They want to be around the team. They want to be around, ASU. They're perfect examples of Sun Devil student athletes.
Because of their age, experience, and dedication to this team, they both have taken on a leadership role going into the 2023 season. At 22, Buckner, a midfielder, says her whole career has prepared her for this season.
Just the adversity through COVID, through many different coaching changes, has definitely prepared me to be an upperclassman, and always having those leaders before me has also prepared me for that.
Brodsky has faced her share of challenges. She didn't play as a freshman, then finally got playing time her sophomore year, only to have it cut short because of COVID. Even though this was difficult for the 22-year-old attacker, it helped her grow into the player she is today.
Getting that time that we lost and just wanting to perform. So I definitely saw a lot more confidence in my play, confidence just in general through my sophomore year and on.
Last year, the ASU women's lacrosse team made it to the Pac-12 championship. Unfortunately, they lost to Stanford, but their winning mentality still drives within them as their teammates see how Brodsky and Buckner share their dedication on and off the field.
We have a lot of common interests, a lot of common goals, and Brods and Buck both. I feel like the 4 of us, we all are very like-minded when it comes to lacrosse. We all want to win. We want to put our best foot forward. So that definitely helps our bond on and off the field as well.
Not only do Katie and Kaylin share a competitive mindset, but they show off their athletic abilities on the field and prove their importance to this team.
You see it, you do it, and you watch them, and you want to do exactly what they do from a playing standpoint. I think that's an exciting thing. They're 2 significant role players that come back to us and get to step back out on that field. So it's been fun to watch and fun to see develop.
Coming from St. Louis, Buckner not only takes her athletics seriously, but also her academics. She is getting her master's at ASU in digital audiences and hopes to get into the marketing field after receiving her degree. She started her lacrosse journey in 7th grade and ever since has been in love with the game.
She's just been a powerhouse in the midfield, really knows how to kind of get the team going, a leader on and off, and will just lead by example. She's not necessarily the most outspoken leader, but she just has a drive and athleticism unlike any person I've seen.
Brodsky picked up the stick at only 8 years old and has not put it down since. Being from a non-traditional lacrosse state like Washington, she had to work even harder for her dreams. Katie is getting her master's in family and human development and hopes to share her passion even if it means she is not in the action.
I love working with kids, and so coaching has always been on my radar, and I'm not entirely sure what I want to do right after college, but I think going down the coaching avenue would be really cool for me.
While this may be their last year on the team, they have made quite an impression on their teammates and coaches, and both have many goals ahead. But until then, they are looking to win. In Tempe, Michaela Nagel, Cronkite Sports Report.
ASU women's lacrosse starts back up this February.
Coming up next on Cronkite Sports Report. A painful accident leaves a soccer player wounded in more ways than one. His story of recovery is next.
Welcome back to the Cronkite Sports Report. A former GCU soccer player almost lost his life to a freak accident a year ago.
Now, the Tucson native is creating a new identity beyond the pitch. Cronkite Sports reporter Marley Zana Thompson chronicles his road to recovery.
I really am struggling to find something that equates to the impact that soccer had on my life.
Rafael Guerrero, otherwise known as Rafa, has spent the last 17 years of his life on the soccer field, most recently as a goalkeeper for Grand Canyon University. After little playing time on a pro team in Tucson, a GCU assistant coach convinced Rafa to try the college route.
I actually coached him back in the day. He was probably one of my first goalkeepers that I coached, and for some reason God put him back in my path, and I tried to help him as much as I could with his dream. And then I took my opportunity to go to GCU. They asked me who I wanted. He was my first guy.
By the 2021 season, Rafa earned the starting position. However, on September 25th, in the final seconds of the conference opener against Seattle University, his life took a drastic turn.
I just remember being so nervous, but I started to have like the best game that I've ever played in my entire life. And the ball got played through, bouncing a little bit as his knee is going up in stride. Just hit right here. So my head just kind of popped, exploded a little bit, and the skin just tore open.
It was a parent's worst nightmare. Rafa's mom, Bianca, watched her son lay motionless on the field for 23 minutes.
When he went down and I was just watching him just be limp, I thought he was dead. Seattle U players, our players just came up and prayed. It was just like an out-of-body experience. I didn't know who was coming back to me, if he was going to come back at all.
Rafa was rushed to St. Joseph's Hospital. He suffered from a stage 3 diffuse axonal injury. His brain was bleeding, pathways were torn, and his brainstem, one of the essentials for life, was severely damaged.
The neurologist came up to me and said, he'll never play sports again. He might not walk again. He might not talk again. Sorry.
The doctors said his injury was unlike anything they had ever seen in sports. However, the people closest to Rafa were dealing with trauma of their own.
To a certain degree, wholeheartedly and genuinely, I feel a little guilty about, because I feel like I took him with me, and this happened to a certain degree because he trusted me. It was tough. So.
Rafa would never play soccer again. After 2.5 weeks in the hospital, he was moved to Barrows Neurological Institute for 4 months. It was there where he began the process of relearning basic human functions.
They would have hours where I'd be with a occupational therapist, which was to work on cognitive abilities. I'd go to a speech therapist for an hour a day. They would help me with my memory, with writing, and with like processing what I was reading or what I was gathering from what I could observe. And then I would do physical therapy. The fourth and final hour, which ended up being the most important hour, was called neuropsychology therapy, and that was to work on the emotional aspect of having a brain injury and how do you process changes.
Rafa went from being an elite athlete to not being able to walk to the bathroom without assistance.
I remember looking at myself in the mirror And at first, I was a bit disgusted with my appearance, with the dependency that I had on others. I don't think that I really recognized who I was looking at, to be completely honest.
A year since his life was changed forever, Rafa is slowly forging his way on a new path.
Soccer was all that I did for my entire life, and it's all I knew, and that's all that I thought that I would do for the rest of my life.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Without soccer, one thing that I have learned is that every new thing that I do is an opportunity to not find out who I am, but to create who I am.
Although Rafa does not know the impact he will make on this world, those closest to him know he will accomplish something amazing with his life.
Here we are, 13 months later. It's been remarkable. He's remarkable.
He'll slowly find things that he loves and slowly find things that he's appreciative of, and slowly piece broken heart back together and find his calling. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to do something magnificent.
Rafa has defied the odds, but for now, he is nowhere near full recovery. He is waiting for his mind and heart to catch up, slowly realizing pain has purpose. In Tucson, Marley-Zanna Thompson, Cronkite Sports Report.
Marley-Zanna tells us Rafa is still processing what happened, but is getting better day by day.
We wish him all the best as he continues to recover.
That's all for this episode of Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Emily Bernstein.
And I'm Joseph Hurtado. On behalf of everyone involved, thank you for tuning in.